Carnivore Confessions. I don't do a lot of YouTubing anymore. I don't do anything regular on this channel except for silly random ideas that I have. But I thought maybe I would start doing something regular. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar, I've been the carnivore guy for a long time with varying levels of success. Started sometime in around 2018, I believe that was 2018, and I lost like 130 pounds. All right, so part of the backstory is I lost my colon due to ulcerative colitis. I've been on Sean Baker's channel a few years ago, and some other channels. I have an ileostomy bag, and so it's complicated things. Those aren't really excuses. There have been a number of things that have happened in my life that have made things difficult for me, and diet always takes a back burner. I moved across the country. I was doing all sorts of crazy things, right? Not eating carnivore, sneaking food when I didn't want my wife or anyone else to know what was going on, while also sort of maintaining a carnivore life in the front of everyone else. And so this sort of pattern seems to be the worst case scenario for retaining or gaining weight. The pattern is relatively sedentary lifestyle with intermittent lifting sessions. So lots of heavy lifting and lots of meat, protein, fat, and sugar, refined carbs. So the confession here, the Carnivore Confessions, is do not get complacent. You're not free from temptation or falling. You're definitely going to have massive amounts of setbacks to one degree or another in your life. How you manage those will determine your success in everything, including diet. So why am I saying this? I've noticed a lot of sugar diet stuff. I've even talked to Cole Robinson, considered talking to him about some more stuff. And why is that relevant? Well, it does seem to me that sugar in the presence of fat is absolutely the worst case scenario. You can get big that way, and I have. So at my highest weight, I was like 390 pounds. I'm very short. I'm 5'9". No, that's a lie. I'm 5'7.5". I carry it relatively well. I am a big guy, but I'm not gigantic. Most people are surprised when I tell them what I weigh. So I went down to 240 years ago when I first started. I wasn't at 390 at the time, I don't believe, but I was on that for like 18 months, and I moved up to 300 and I don't know, 50, and it kind of kept going. So the reset has been hard. I've reached out to a lot of people and looked for advice, help, spent a lot of money on training and consulting and coaching. It's never going to suffice when it comes to the discipline issues. You need to develop discipline. I've talked to, I've talked to Dr. Sivas before as my doctor, and he talks about this carb addiction thing, all of that stuff, right? The Sean Baker, Bart Kay, Cole Robinson, I've talked to all these guys, like actually talked to them. And they all have ways of getting things to work: fasting, carnivore diet, low carb, methods of coping. Okay. So any of those strategies I believe will work, because I've seen them work for me for periods of time, between 3 and 6 months at a time, maybe 18 months in the first time. And so right now, so where are we at? So I really let myself go, and I had an accountability partner that I was paying for, and I just kind of fell off, right? And I tried to get back on. I had a lot of surgery / medical problems that arose even after losing all of that weight. I gained it back, and then I got a whole bevy of problems that returned. Let's see. The first of the problems was a hernia on my ostomy, but that was kind of like a pain, but it didn't get bad. And then I started developing some insane joint pain. It was really hard for me to describe. My back would seize up. I would get costochondritis, where my ribs would hurt, and they started getting like progressively worse. I was also lifting at the time, and I also started TRT at that time, testosterone replacement therapy, because I was grasping at straws to see, after getting off the wagon and back on the wagon of Carnivore so many times, it was taking me forever to lose weight again. I wasn't experiencing the same kind of results that I once experienced. And so I, was sort of desperate. I was like, why can't I lose the way I once did before with this kind of eating, which consists of, steak, ribeye, eggs, coffee, heavy cream. Like, that's pretty much it. And diet soda, right? 0-calorie diet soda. And I'd lost a ton of weight that way, very strict. Doing it again, it wasn't happening. So I was starting to get a little desperate, right? So I went TRT, started lifting a lot, got a trainer, was really trying hard, right? Started introducing like some more dairy stuff, like yogurt and things like that, Greek yogurt, like these sorts of things that people tell you to do in an effort to manage weight. Protein leveraging, Mark Bell talks about that. Big fan of his Steak Shake products. And I started getting this pain that was horrendous, and I thought it was from lifting. And it got so bad that I had to go to the hospital for weeks. Why? Well, that's probably a story for another time, but long story short is they diagnosed me with a version of inflammatory arthritis after weeks of testing, with all sorts of medical problems that arose in the hospital. John Hopkins, that's where I was for weeks. Things have sort of subsided since then. They basically thought that I was in an inflammatory situation because of my history with ulcerative colitis. So they said, well, you have another autoimmune disease, and it's rheumatoid, or some version of rheumatoid, inflammatory arthritis caused by an autoimmune condition. Maybe that's true. Maybe I do have that. Maybe I don't. Because things have gotten a lot better after tightening up again. I'm not on TRT anymore. I am since January, December, 28th or so. It's now May. I've been rocking Carnivore hardcore, right? Again. So here we are, a little over 5 months into that, and I've lost about 45 pounds in 5 months or so. Still got a long way to go. I'm currently sitting at 332. I think for someone my height, even if I were to be a pretty big guy, muscular wise, right, probably need to be, 200, right? 190, 180. And I think if I was being even more honest, someone my height would probably be awesome at 160, right? I've never seen 160. 160 would be, like middle school for me, right? I was wrestling 215, 230, 240. It was 275 weight class when I was in high school. Football, wrestling, lacrosse, shot put, discus. So, but I never really tried, right? I always ate like it was my last meal. I always ate like I was going to the chair, like I like to say. Okay. So 45 pounds, 5 months ish. It's probably pretty good. At a good clip. A little less than 10 pounds a month. And I think I can keep this up. Why is this so important for me versus, say, going to another diet like fruitarian, juice fasting, sugar fasting? I have an ostomy, an ileostomy, which means no colon at all. If I eat anything that has fiber or that ferments, so that would be like large amounts of sugar, sucrose, something like that. It makes my bag fill up with air, right? Gas. And gas is also really painful when you have an ostomy because it doesn't really escape very easily. So I feel like I'm sort of medically bound to a very low inflammation, slash low residue, low fiber diet. Okay, so a low fiber diet, what does that look like? Well, if you're in the world of medicine, they give you, the sort of brat idea, but that's sort of weird because bananas have fiber in them, but brat means banana, rice, applesauce, and toast. That still causes massive problems for me. Toast and or bananas definitely cause discomfort. I've tried it. Carnivore does not, and I hate to break it to people, but that is the diet for the ostomy patient, as far as I can tell. The meat, especially in the absence of dairy, does not have any residue. There's nothing to pass. It's chyme, it's liquid, it's bile. There's nothing there. So while you can get a constricted bowel with liquid alone, it's much harder if you have low residue diet. And so that's why I'm stuck on carnivore. Could I attempt a faster weight loss scenario where I go sugar diet or fruitarian, where maybe like you're able to really chuck away weight? Because it seems like that seems to be some short-term, super fast solution. Yes, but not with an ostomy as far as I'm concerned. Number two, could I fast it away? Well, I've tried that so many times. And I fast standing on my head. I fasted, 8, 9, 10 days before on water alone. 3 days on nothing, dry fast. And the rebound's always there. You eat and then you say, I'm going to start again the next day, and it doesn't happen. So that weight loss that you had is harder to keep off. So I just don't think that's super sustainable for me. I think also it complicates things having an ostomy because the hydration issue's there, right? You have no colon, which is a large portion of where you absorb water. Your small intestine adapts when you don't have a colon, but it's still a bit of a problem, right? Because you're dumping a lot of fluid, and your electrolyte imbalance would definitely rear its ugly head. So you got to make sure you're getting in proper electrolytes, right, and nutrition. So, potassium, magnesium, and salt. And I drink a lot of water, right, like all day long, because I'm always thirsty. I wouldn't say always thirsty, but I enjoy drinking water because my mouth tends to get dry. So that's why I'm on this situation. Now, why am I making this video? Well, I'm making this video somewhat for accountability to keep going. I haven't fallen off the wagon in 5.5 months. I haven't been extraordinarily strict with regards to dairy, but I haven't seen any results like slowing my progress down, so I've maintained it. I've kind of settled into that basic thing that happens with carnivore, which is basically OMAD. I feel like that kind of works itself out on carnivore for most people, especially if you're in the higher fat world. It's hard, you're just not hungry. High fat, high protein, eggs, ground beef that's with tallow, right? Steak with tallow, pork chops, right? Chicken legs, like all salmon, all that stuff is very, very satiating. The satiety level on that food is high. So it's never a hunger thing. As far as I'm concerned, it was never a situation where I was famished. It was always an emotional thing, and emotional doesn't mean like sad or depressed. That's not what I'm saying. It could be excited. There's like a thing that happens where you may accomplish something great, or you just have a great feeling that day. The sun's shining, birds chirping. You feel great when you wake up. You maybe don't have to work that day. Your responsibilities are on the wayside a little bit, and you sort of have this sort of like I deserve a celebration kind of thing, right? At least that's me, right? And so you're like, it's a what, you're like, I'm gonna go and let me try and have this like piece of food, like let's try some ice cream, right? Like that's not so bad because it's dairy, it's just some sugar, that just spirals. So my advice is to never let your guard down. And I think that kind of anxiety is hard to deal with. When I say let your guard down, it sounds like you're always like white knuckling it through the day. But I think what's best is to not let your guard down, but not in a way that makes it seem like you need to white knuckle it in order for the guard to stay up, but you need to have confidence in your process, right? So don't let your guard down with regards to your process. Stick to the plan, right? As a Christian, I believe that all things God ordains for the goodness of those who love him, and there aren't any ultimate accidents. So when it comes to that scenario, I think the sin issue really rears its ugly head in that, which is it's not the falling off of the sin in itself. That's a symptom of not resting in promises made to you from a God that doesn't change, and from a God that has all things ordered. So if you trust that process, look to Christ, and know that nothing is accidental, then your love for the process is easier. So I hope this is helpful to some people. I hope I can make some more carnivore confessions videos like this. This is a long one because it's the first one, and I'm sure I'll have a lot of other long ones because there's so many stories I'd love to tell that people I think may benefit from because of the time period I've been in here, the progress, the hills and valleys that I've had on this scenario. I feel like I have pretty good standing in this with regards to experience, and I hope that people don't get rose-colored glasses on when they see the carnivore diet and think it's a panacea for all things, right? A cure-all. It's not a cure-all of your discipline. It's not a cure-all of your abdication of obedience to the process, right? It doesn't fix your desire to seek pleasure. It's a tool and a blessing that we can even do that. So, follow along if you want. This is my channel here. It's under my name. I don't know if I'll make a new channel. I might just keep this here and just tag it appropriately. Anyway, I don't know how many people will watch this, but I pray that it helps somebody, and even if just myself. So anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll probably do some more videos.